your kink is, something special that you really like. I think it's as simple as that. I don't think that it's helpful to define kink by reference to sex. A person has made a decision to not feel as much shame. It really helps them live with less shame. Welcome to the Bold Shift Club. Let's make this shift happen.
Hello everyone and welcome to another amazing episode of the Bold Shift Club. And today we have someone really interesting, special, and I've had the pleasure to know her for a few months now, and the work she has done and the impact she has created in a very unique way is truly interesting. I bet you weren't expecting such a unique take in a podcast, but this is the Bold Shift Club and we bring you people from different various opinions, interests, and lifestyle, and the impact they create so that you can realize the way you can lead your life and just figure out things that can help you make the shift in your journey. With that, I'd love to welcome the lovely Lara and also known as the Divine Theratrix. Lara, I'm so glad that you joined us and thank you for being on the show.
Really glad to be here. It's always lovely to be invited to talk about some of the things that I love, which are very familiar to me, but I'm aware that they might not be so familiar to other people and maybe some of your listeners. So I hope that I can share some interesting nuggets, maybe of wisdom for them.
Absolutely. I think this is going to be an amazing journey and people are going to be blown away one way or the other.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, if you could do a quick introduction about yourselves to let the listeners know a bit about yourself.
I describe myself as a professional kinkster because although I have had a personal interest in what I would call the kink lifestyle, around 2018, I did make a shift from that being only a personal interest to part of my professional life. So that's how I created the persona known as Divine Theratrix. Because the wish that I had was to combine my interests in both kink and therapy. So I came up with this word Theratrix to convey this joining of being a therapist and then also being a dominatrix. So it's not quite a therapist, not quite a dominatrix, but somewhere the two have been blended to produce the offerings that I make available to people that wish to explore their inner world through this wonderful thing called kink.
And I remember engaging with you first through your content and the unique takes and perspective you have in terms of just the unveiling of layers within ourselves, especially that can happen through kink in one way or the other. It's extremely crucial because there are a lot of psychological barriers and there are a lot of walls that have risen because of the world we live in and the environment one has lived in. And just, there's so many things that come in the way. And sometimes it might be just you can overcome them by talking about it, but sometimes kink is something that could really help. Like, I feel like, 50 Shades of Grey did a very misjustice to the concept of BDSM and kink overall, and people just look at it in one perspective. Whereas there's so much to kink and it's so therapeutic in general itself. So honestly, it's really great to have you here. And what are your thoughts in general about the impact kink or just kink therapy has had on people or what it can do for people?
One of the main things that I notice is how the exploration of kink, even if someone is completely new to it and they haven't considered themselves to be a kinkster, when they begin exploring what they might enjoy and that could be considered to be kinky, it really helps them live with less shame. Because there is still quite a lot of judgment generally in society around what is considered by the mainstream to be kinky. And so the mere act of taking steps to explore what is still technically a subculture is representative of an individual making a stand for themselves and putting aside any judgments which they might have internalized from society. And immediately, when taking that stand, I think that a person has made a decision to not feel as much shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to be ashamed of this. I don't care what society says. I know I'm still a good person. I haven't changed. Like, me as a person, I still have my integrity and my beliefs. Just because I'm doing this other thing doesn't change any of that. And I think that's a really important realization for anyone to have around sexuality.
Yeah, I think that's extremely clear. So I think it even just opens up a whole other level of confidence and self-worth when you can embrace that part of yourself. And it doesn't need
Yeah.
to be extremely in-depth as well. Like, I had a friend of mine who used to love cracking all sorts of inappropriate jokes, and that was her vibe, and we loved her for that. But before she met us, she used to feel a lot of judgment because people around her would never accept her, and they would make her feel that, she's inappropriate, she is being judged, or that, she's not supposed to be like that. And for a very long time, she felt that she's supposed to change herself until she started to find people around her who laughed with her on the same things, who understood that it's just humor and it's just a part of ourselves. Doesn't mean that we are being disgusting or anything, but rather it's just being ourselves. And it allowed her to be more confident ever since she joined that circle, and then she discovered more people around her who are just open to expressing and embracing that part of herself.
Yeah, that's had a ripple effect on her life. Just that one decision, it's then expanded out to having a circle of friends that fit more with who she is because she's accepted more of who she is.
Yeah.
And like you say, it's the same with kink. Just that one small act of self-acceptance creates more understanding of self for a person. And I think that when we understand ourselves better, we can then begin to attract the people and situations that fit with our true selves better, and it just keeps increasing the sense of well-being, the sense of happiness. Yeah,
absolutely. And I love the way you put it out there, because that's exactly what I talk about as a brand strategist myself, because I tell this to my clients, like, figure out who you are and be able to express and embrace that part of yourself with confidence. And then instead of having to attract the people, you'll end up gravitating the people you want to work with, you want to be, you want to have as your audience, because they will align further with your mindset, with your personality and things you're putting out there. And it's just that the moment you can find that clarity in yourself and you can figure out who you are as an individual, you're able to put it out there with more ease. There's lack of hesitation. And I think that, even when you do embrace that part of yourself, initially it's going to take some time for you to be able to put it out there with more confidence. But the more you do it, the more consistent you are, the more you can start to embrace it as a part of yourself, and it just opens up a whole other world for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, self-acceptance, such a valuable thing, but we have to learn it. I think it's not something that is generally taught to people. how to get to know yourself and how to accept it.
Absolutely. Like, most of the times I ask my clients that, who are you right now? It's such a confusing question, because it's very hard to describe who you are as a person unless you have that amount of self clarity. And I struggled with it myself, and like just the people around me as well, they have so much confusion about the person or the people they are right now, even though they're living the life on a daily basis. And the lack of alignment is honestly causes people a lot of loss and confusion, because they're in this vague fog, because they don't know who they are, and so they're just living a life and it's just passing by day due to a lack of clarity. And once people can figure out who they are as individuals, I think it opens up a lot of clarity for them, and it allows them to move forward into directions they would love to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. They can live their life for themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I think, go through life being very focused outwardly. And we have to have some focus outwardly because that's how we live life. You've got to look outside and think how you're going to impact the world and what you're going to do in it. But when people are focused outwardly on what everyone else wants, what everyone else is feeling, it can be quite easy to become lost.
Yes.
And I talk to a lot of people who I think have become quite disconnected from their inner world, even to the extent of not really being able to describe what emotions they're feeling or what sensations are arising in their body.
Yeah.
And so for people like that, kink is such a great tool for bringing them back to themselves.
Yeah.
You know, like, how is this activity making me feel?
Yes, I think that's very crucial. Like, that's one of my interesting and most favorite things about Kink is it's a extremely unique and very personal take on self-exploration. And it's not just, sex or just, hooking up or anything like that, but rather a very in-depth journey to discover who you are as people, as an individual, because it allows you to truly connect with what you like, what you dislike, and explore yourself. And that opens up a lot more things about you as a person.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's going on internally for one person when they're experiencing a kink could be completely different to what another person is experiencing internally. So yeah, like you say, it is a very individual experience. When people ask me, oh, what is kink? That's one of the things that I say is it's an internal experience. It's what's going on for you in your inner world. One person receiving impact play, rhythmic hitting with something like a flogger or a whip or a hand, that experience for one person could be very much about the endorphins that are being released in their body. Whereas for someone else, it could be more about the mental experience of endurance. It's an internal experience, whatever it is, it's to do with the person's inner world. And I think when people can understand that, that helps to remove some of the judgment, because you can't just look at someone receiving impact play and say, oh, you're just doing that because you're messed up. So you don't know that. You don't know what their inner experience is. You're not inside them right now.
Exactly. I feel
Who
like
are you to judge it?
Yeah, there's just so much judgment out there in the world in terms of just people who are in kink or BDSM and everything. They have criminalized the word kinky. Like, if people are like, oh, you're kinky, that means you're doing a lot of shameful things. But no, it's just that they know what they like and they have that amount of clarity in themselves, and they're seeking, instead of settling, they're seeking what they want.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you said there about it being something they like, that they're pursuing, that's so on point with another way that I describe kink, which is your kink is, something special that you really like. I think it's as simple as that. I don't think that it's helpful to define kink by reference to sex, because it may include sex, it may not include sex.
Exactly.
Something doesn't have to be sexual to be kinky. And I don't like it when I read in the mainstream media that kink is being described as unconventional sex.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just such a load of rubbish, because then we have to get into what's conventional sex. Well, that could vary wildly depending on like cultural factors and a whole host of other demographics. Is someone queer? Are they straight? What's conventional to one demographic might not be to another. So I think moving away completely from this really old-fashioned idea of, oh, if it's kinky, it's not conventional sex. Let's not talk about that. Let's just talk about what are the special things that you as an individual really like and that are guaranteed to make you feel great.
Yeah. I love the way you put it out there. And very recently, since we work very closely with a lot of sexual wellness and intimacy-led businesses, and I'm very much involved out there to help sex workers be decriminalized and truly look at themselves as businesses. We use kink as a word to rather explain niching, because niching is such a confusing word out there for so many businesses. I'm like, think of it like your kink. Think of it as, what do you like to do? And that's your niche. That's exactly what we do with business. We take familiarities, like, because people in the industry who are involved, especially therapists and even just people who are trying to put themselves out there or curious, they understand concepts of kink a lot more than people who have been out there in the business world. And so it's easier to connect things with something familiar and then try to connect it with something that's unfamiliar to them.
Yeah, I love this so much that I'm writing it down. Niching in business. Yeah, that's so apt. I love that. It's like the thing that makes you or makes your business special. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's time to do a workshop on like find your kink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
But
Yeah, we're on the same page. It's like the special sauce,
yes.
that special ingredient, the secret thing that makes it taste really good.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, why does everyone come to your shop? What's the special thing that they can get there? Yeah.
Yeah, find your kink. Find what people love about you and you love about yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm really seeing an explosion of this niching since lockdown lifted. I don't know if you've noticed that as well, but I think where, globally we were kind of sent to our rooms, if you like, sent to our room to think about things. And I think a lot of people had more time in reflection and got to know themselves better. And then when we began to emerge from our little hiding places, when the world began to open up again, I saw this explosion of niching, in that rather than going to, I don't know, larger gatherings of people that were more generalized in the activities that were on offer. And I'm thinking of the kink scene in London when I talk about this. What I noticed was a desire for more specialized spaces, so more niche spaces, because people had a lot more appreciation of, like, when I go and recreate or socialize, this is exactly what I want to do. Who else wants to do that with me? So then there were these smaller groups forming, because it became necessary for people to gather around their specific interests. And I really love that, seeing people taking more agency over, actually, these are the kinds of environments where I feel really comfortable, where I want to play. And actually, I don't want to go and hang around with maybe 300 people and listen to the music that I don't want to listen to, or do the activities which aren't that fun for me.
Exactly. I think I talked about this about a year ago, and that the pandemic acted as a catalyst for change, because for a very long time we didn't have this time for ourselves. We had to engage with people, we had to be involved, but once the pandemic hit, it was kind of like we were taken away from a source of addiction, which is that we were supposed to be in a world. And once the withdrawal and everything was taken away, people had time to discover who they were. People had time to, like, both in kink, in business, in their personal life, people finally realized what really makes them happy. They had a lot of time for self-discovery, and this allowed them to realize that they don't want to live a life that is not for them. So many people shifted their jobs, many people quit and started their companies. There's a rise in freelancing, there's a rise in desire, a lot of more personalization is put out there. And so even the concepts like niching were out there, people actually had the time to truly process it and understand exactly what it was, and realize that, this is what I want, this is who I want to be as an individual. And because they were back into the world, they realized that they no longer have to settle, and rather they want to be with people who align with that. Because if they were again supposed to go into a lockdown or something, they'd rather spend time on Zoom calls with the people they love and family and around the people they really enjoy, than being stuck up doing a 9-to-5 job that they don't enjoy, or doing boring activities that they are not interested in.
I'm feeling into this as like a more of a general global thing as you're talking, and what is coming up for me is this experience of longing in a person's heart, and how that period of lockdown really got people to feel into that, and like, what do I truly long for? And maybe slowly giving ourselves permission to even consider that, because that can be quite tough in itself, in that if we've been shut off from what we truly long for because of societal conditioning, or thinking that we have to do a particular job to earn money, or do the activities that our peers are doing, it shuts us off from what the true longing of our hearts might be.
Exactly.
So this is a space of bravery, I think, for people to begin to step into. Could I allow myself to even be aware of what I truly long for? Because what if I couldn't have it right now? Would that be painful?
And I think the same goes for pleasure as well, that in the pandemic, there was nobody there to judge you anymore. You were by
Mm.
yourself, and you had the time to truly realize that what brings you pleasure, what brings you joy, what is something that you want to do with yourself and by yourself, and not be worried what other people are thinking. And you're like, who's gonna judge me? Who's gonna stop me? I'm literally involved in this. I'm all by myself. So I think that played a huge role in terms of discovery in that aspect as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
Mm.
So honestly, I'm enjoying this conversation, and I'd love to ask you, when someone comes to you and they're struggling to discover what's their kink or what is their, what is the thresholds they're facing. And I know that as a form of therapy, it's different for each and every person. It's not going to be a cookie cutter frame. But what are generally some of the things you see that are holding people back from exploring themselves, and what are certain things that allow them to be able to open that layer and get in touch with that part of themselves?
Mm. Yeah, most of the people that find me and they want to talk about what's going on with them, because I'm a certified counsellor, so part of the work that I do is talking to people to counsel them about what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and to help them gain clarity over what they're going to do next. Most of those people will already have some idea of what they might be interested in the world of kink. They might already be exploring something, or they might have an intention to go to places where they can explore. And what they want to talk to me about is how to do that.
Yeah.
Or alternatively, they might have some concerns around whether what they want to do is healthy. So a lot of it is around unpicking perceived judgments from society and working through some of that shame, so that they then feel freer to go forward and explore those kinks. And for other people, they might be in a relationship with someone else and kink forms part of that, or they want it to form part of that.
Yeah.
And so talking to me helps them to find strategies of bringing in new activities with someone that they really care about. So that's just a few examples of the context of why some people want to talk to me about kink. And the obvious thing that is holding them back, like I said, is judgment. And worries about losing relationships as well. If someone has a partner already, one of the main worries is, what if they leave me? What if they do not accept this thing that I'm into?
Yes.
Or what if they're into this thing and I can't accept that? What do we do? How do we compromise? How do we move forward? So there are such a variety of reasons, but I think most of it comes down to the very primal fear of being cast out of our tribe. Because it's a survival need for us to have some amount of social validation from our peers and our partners, because our survival brain is wired towards us being in connection with other humans. We have a relational brain, we have this limbic system that enables us to experience emotions and to connect and form relationships. And there'll always be a part of that survival brain that says, oh my God, if they don't accept me, I'm going to get cast out of my tribe and then I'll die. And it's not a rational fear, but it exists, and we can't get away from that primal wiring. So the fear of not being accepted is a very real fear that all of us experience at some point, and all of us need to learn to reassure ourselves about.
Absolutely. I mean, when we look at Maslow's hierarchy, belongingness plays a huge role for people to be able to just find that peace and balance in themselves. To reach a point of self-actualization, they need to have people who will accept them, and I think communities play a huge role, especially. And this is something very much that exists in communities of people that have been shunned, that they come together to support each other. That's always a great thing that I see that. And I've seen that a lot in the queer communities as well as with kink. Like queer, obviously now it's a lot more embraced, as pride is seen in a whole new different perspective than it was a few decades ago. And but kink is even coming to play now, and there's still a lot of shame, but the people who are in the community, they're always open to embrace, and they never make people feel like they're outcasts, but rather that even if I might not be into it, I embrace you and I accept you and I hope you find someone and everything. So I think community plays a huge role over here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what we might call chosen family.
Yeah. Yes.
And that you get to choose these people that you feel safe with, because you know that you have shared views of the world, shared understanding, and acceptance of each other. And that really fosters a huge sense of well-being, to have that sense of family and that I know I'm safe with these people.
Yeah, I think safety plays a very crucial role, especially in a field where or in a life where you're always felt judged. Because I've had friends who have been brokers, and they have been in the street for in one field, like they have been in Wall Street for 15 to 20 years. They've spent all of their life around that, and they always shun this part of themselves. But sometimes it was the pandemic, or sometimes it was just they shared it with someone, and then instead of keeping it as a secret, they let everybody else around them know. But regardless of how it acted out for them, by being able to embrace that part of themselves, they live a whole other life, and it's a lot more happier and it's a lot more easier because they feel accepted by themselves, and now they have a community that accepts them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so valuable, and it takes time to build that up as well.
So in terms of just the journey, have you ever if you're comfortable sharing, you don't have to get into details, but with the people who have joined you and have learned from you and have just seen the impact, what have you seen in terms of how their life has changed after they started embracing that part of themselves?
Yeah, the common piece of feedback I receive is that they feel more themselves, they feel more playful, and it's like they're seeing the world with new eyes or in a different way.
Yeah.
And sadly, I don't always get to see or hear about practically what that looks like in their life.
Yeah.
What has changed in how their life looks now compared to before. But yeah, I do get some lovely emails and people just saying, I really feel like you've unlocked something for me.
Yes.
And it's that shift, isn't it? The bold shift.
Yes. It's so fun because sometimes even the smallest of things can play such a huge role. Because one of my clients that joined me for a personal branding session, they felt like they were supposed to be someone else. And with me, it's extremely therapeutic as well, because we go a lot more in terms of the internal aspect and trying to figure out who they are as individuals first, rather than what they're supposed to be. And sometimes it's just the slightest of difference that adds that amount of confidence in themselves, that they can walk with pride and they lack hesitation because they have actualized that part of themselves and they have embraced it, and now they're proud of it. And becoming proud of that part of themselves and putting it out there plays a huge role, because once that shift has been made, even in the body language, the way they walk with confidence and the way they move around, and just the tonality, because now they're in a whole world that's completely accepting of themselves, or that is ready to hear them out, and that plays a huge role.
Yeah, absolutely. If someone is stuck, what I say to them is, your body needs to have a different experience for you to get unstuck. And this is why I educate people a lot about their nervous system and linking up the mind and the body, and finding ways for them to physically embody the changes that they are seeking. Because we can't do it all in our mind. learning theory about things, or why am I doing this, etc. That can help up to a point, but then I think you actually need to involve the body and to move it around and let it feel different. Having an experience which is just slightly different can enable someone to make contact with an emotional state that might not have been accessible to them before, and then it's like they've expanded the reach of their experience, and like you said, they can walk a bit more differently, they can walk a bit more confidently, because their body has felt, oh, that felt different, I now feel like I have access to more of an experience. And that could just be, like you say, just a little thing, just a little change. It just makes so much difference in what it unlocks.
I love everything that you're sharing so far, because it's just such a unique take on the world, the perspective the world has had so far on kink and BDSM in general, and just what it is, because your insights are so much more in depth in terms of just the human psychology, the metamorphosis of an individual, and just the overall change in confidence and one's life that they plan to live and lead. Because sometimes that's the thing, like the most smallest of changes, and it can be dressing up, it can be you being in a particular environment, talking to certain people, or figuring out that part of yourself that seeks pleasure, or the part of yourself that you have said no to for a very long time because you felt judged, or you felt that you might not be embraced or accepted. And I think it's very crucial, because that journey of making that pivot to accepting is very crucial. And I'm pretty sure you must have had some patients or people who have joined you who may not have figured out their kink just yet, or may not have accepted it yet. And the journey and the transition is very crucial. It's very conflicting as well as something that they need to do, because it's very hard to tell someone that, oh, you need to try something that's so sexual, or that might be sexual for them, and they might have always said no to it. And it's a very challenging situation, because it's so weird to put that. Like, if someone randomly comes to you, even if you're seeking help, if a conversation leads to something sexual, most people tend to change their perspective on the way the person they're talking to itself, not just in terms of the situation, but they start to say no to the person itself. So how has it been for you, like the journey, or when people come to you and you suggest? I think it's very crucial that obviously we don't force it on anybody, but rather we suggest it. But how has it been for you, where an individual is going through that journey of conflict and embracing and considering, going into something that's different, that's kinky for them?
Yeah, I'm very mindful in those situations that it's not for me to drive a person towards any particular outcome. I work in a person-centered way, because I believe that everyone is the best expert on themselves, and that I don't have the answers, but I'm here to help someone draw out the answers that are already within inside themselves. So yeah, if someone is taking their time in processing some shame, or discovering what might be kinky for them, then I'm not going to rush them, because I don't know. I think this idea of titrating the dose of something, that we don't want to overwhelm someone with an idea. It's like, just maybe drip feed little ideas that are enough for the nervous system to process. I like to use the word percolate, like a coffee percolator. Just let these ideas percolate through your system. Sometimes it takes someone a couple of days at least, or maybe a couple of weeks, to really gain an understanding, once that percolation has happened, of like, where does this sit within my body? How do I really feel about this? And I think it's really important to let people take their time with that, because there are lots of layers of social conditioning to work through.
And I think it's kind of like a ripple effect, because the moment they hear something like that, or they hear a suggestion like that, it doesn't just go away, especially if they're in the point of healing and they need something to help them, and they hear that might be absurd for them, that might be stigmatized for a very long time in their life, and it ripples for a very long time. Even if it's a drip, it's going to ripple throughout the entire nervous system. They're going to have conflicts with it, they're going to object to it, they're going to consider it, and it's going to play around in their body for a very long time if they're willing to make that change, and if obviously that is the right thing for them. Yes. And it very much reminded me of when we try to facilitate a purpose workshop, because for us, discovering your purpose is very crucial, because I want my clients to do things that they love and that they feel fulfilled by. But you can't just find your purpose. I always say this to my clients, that you're never going to find your purpose, but rather you'll become more and more aware of it the more you do things that fulfill you. Because when you feel fulfilled, that means you're getting closer to things that are more purposeful for you, and you become more aware of it. And the way we do that is quite similar to what you said, because we help them figure out what is it that always felt more fulfilling to them, that made them feel different about their environment, that made them consider changing things. Because for me, animal welfare plays a huge role. And when I was a young kid, I used to be scared of dogs, but now I'm someone, if I see dogs fighting on the road, I just go and shout at them as if they're my kids and everything, like, stop fighting, you morons, and it's the slight changes and doing things and realizing that I want to be someone who takes care of dogs, for whom running an animal welfare, being with my dogs, is more crucial than running a 7-figure agency sometimes. And I think making those small pivots plays a huge role, because when you can truly allow yourself to discover who you are, it allows you to live a life that you want to lead, but also be able to embrace that part of yourself and move more towards that.
What I'm hearing in what you just said there is the importance of meaning, in that I think all humans really crave meaning. Like, we want our lives to have meaning. Even the most objective and scientific person, that they still crave meaning. Science gives their life meaning. Knowing that there are theories that tell you how the world works, that that's the meaning of life for them. Where someone who is religious, the meaning of life is different for them. But we need to know what everything means. And this purpose, or having a core belief of animal welfare being important, these are things that give us meaning, and it makes it worthwhile waking up in the morning.
Absolutely.
We all need this. We really do. We need these things to hang our lives on, really.
So I would love to ask you, have you figured out what's your current purpose, or what gives you meaning right now?
Right now, I'm working on some other projects which I won't talk about now, behind the scenes, which are kind of separate to what Divine Theratrix does. But what Divine Theratrix does a lot of is working with individuals to help them experience more freedoms in their life. Finding ways of feeling free, whether that be for myself or for other people. This is a large part of my purpose. But outside of working with individuals, I'm beginning to look more now at opportunities to help create shifts that are more collective, so are more at the level of policy. So looking at how we can affect the laws that affect sexuality, sexual expression, nudity, decriminalization, which I know is a project that you're interested in as well. So at the moment, I'm looking at freedoms at both an individual and a collective level. And that, if I can help individuals feel freer from societal conditioning or the way that they judge themselves, that's great. That gives me a lot of meaning in my life. But I'm also now looking at, I want to speed things up. I want to help move along some really important conversations in society and see if I can be instrumental to create more of a shift at policy level and in the laws that are perhaps restricting people's freedoms.
Absolutely. And I feel like, obviously you must know this already, but it's also connected, that at the end of the day, the vision is to create freedom of expression and acceptance, and you're doing that through therapy, you're doing that through the policy shifts and everything else as well that is coming together. And for me, it's kind of similar. Like, for me, my main aim is to allow individuals to be able to express their best self and feel safe while doing that. And I do that with the dogs I rescue, so that they can feel safe to run around, be weird, and not feel that someone's going to do something to them. or to the creatives I coach and help them scale their business so that they can live the life they want to lead as creative professionals and not have to surrender into something else because it didn't work out for them. Or even for the clients who have a dream, who have a vision, a mission that they want to achieve, and help them create brand identities and branding so that they're able to express that with more confidence and they get closer to their goals. So I feel like, once we know that the current state of purpose for ourselves, we open ourselves to a lot more alignment with the different things we do. And I have this saying that your mission is the different things you're doing to get closer to your vision, but you'll never get to your vision. Your vision is always going to be something you're striving towards, but the different things you do will get you closer to that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Lara. It was honestly really amazing to hear your insights and take on Kink and just the overall world. And I hope that all the listeners who joined us found a way to be able to embrace and accept themselves. And even if not that yet, just figure out that there might be something that might be hindering in their own growth and their ability to be their best self. And this conversation inspired you to ignite that spark and discover that or start discovering it. So with that, thank you so much for joining us, Lara, and to be a part of this amazing bold shift that we are trying to make.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.